a lot of people on the left believe that our ideas are self-evident and don't need to be proven. And so we don't even like to engage in the debate. I love the Leopard song, okay? I watch it every time.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of gotcha energy in that, and I don't always know if that's helpful. Crazy Stupid Podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if this is your first time watching, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell so that you are aware of when we post things.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Another episode of Crazy Stupid Podcast. My name is Esther.
And I'm Adrian.
And we're coming to you guys today with something that's a little bit different than what we normally do.
Some doom and gloom.
But whatever, it's our podcast, so we get to talk about whatever we want. And today, that's politics, baby.
Stand on business. Also, our comment section is not a democracy. If you say something racist or sexist or transphobic, bro, you're out of here.
Well, I mean, so much has occurred in literally 5 days. This time last week, we thought TikTok was going to be gone.
I know. Well, I guess one thing that I did want to talk about that I've sort of seen happen a little bit online, there's a lot of talk about how because of the comments that the TikTok CEO made, it sort of proves that TikTok is sort of in bed with the GOP, like it's a part of their political strategy now. And personally, I feel like that is a little short-sighted and is part of how we end up where we did in November. I'm telling you as a cishet man that when I first got TikTok, I had to make multiple accounts because I would always be shocked that after just a few scrolls, the algorithm seemed to know that I was a straight guy and it assumed a lot about what I liked. In a few scrolls, if TikTok has assumed that you are a straight guy, bro, you're going to find yourself on that alt-right pipeline very quickly. In a few scrolls, you're going to see some Joe Rogan clip. And then if you watch that, it's going to assume that's the direction you want to go with everything. And it happens to everyone. I was talking to one of my colleagues and they were talking about how when the mayor of Baltimore made it TikTok and it happened to him, which is why he was shocked. Like there's a reason why we've seen such a massive shift to the right. And it's because of apps, including TikTok, not just TikTok. It's the same thing on YouTube. It's the same thing on Instagram. It's the same thing on Facebook, on Twitter, obviously now on Twitter for sure. And so when we look at the data of saying, how did America go even further to the right on things like immigration and further to the right on things like trans issues, which was not that big of a problem until maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. It seemed to grow. Bro, it's because of these apps. The Andrew Tates, the Joe Rogans. It's a long list of these YouTubers and these long list of streamers. It has changed the opinions and minds, not just of young men, but of men of all ages across the board.
I think the concern that people have is that they will be more aggressive.
1,000%.
That's what I think a lot of people mean when they say that, like, oh, now she was like in bed with Trump and TikTok. I think that's what people are saying.
That's the difference with the digital ecosystem that conservatives have built versus what Democrats have on a much smaller scale. Republicans will have like 10 different podcasts that they could go on to, and all of them are not as nearly critical as the more left-leaning ones are. Left-leaning, the bigger left-leaning content creators are not inspiring their listeners to vote. No. You're walking away just as angry at Democrats as conservatives are, just for different reasons.
Now, I will say, I personally do not watch a lot of the very pro-leftist accounts for that reason. To me,
I get it.
It don't do nothing for me. What I perceive about it is that there doesn't appear to be anybody, or at least very few people on the left that are genuinely engaged in the task of persuasion.
No.
And getting people to agree with them.
I agree.
I don't know if the people on the right were doing that necessarily, but I don't think they have to, because their stance is an easier sell because they're trying to convince people to go places we've already been before. When you're trying to convince somebody to do something new, you have to spend the bulk of your energy talking about yourself and not the opposition. Remember, like in high school when you would have to write like opinion essays and stuff? One of the tips that they would teach you is that you want to address the opposing opinion, but that is not supposed to be the bulk of your essay. The bulk of your essay is not supposed to be, this idea is bad, this is why this idea is bad, this is why this idea is bad. You're supposed to spend the overwhelming amount of your word space, of your word count and your energy talking up your point of view and what makes it so good. And I think that all across the left side of the political spectrum, it doesn't matter if it's a moderate Democrat, it doesn't matter if it's a very far left I don't even like whatever, very leftist, it doesn't matter. All across the spectrum, we spend the vast majority of our energy just talking about how terrible the other side is, and not enough of our energy talking up our own ideas and trying to genuinely convince and persuade people that we have good ideas that are practical, that can be achieved, and that would better your life. There's just not enough time, honestly, spent doing that from anybody. It's a lot of they're so bad, they're so terrible. And I know everybody left the election all mad and angry. How low, we saw all the statistics and all the numbers about all these different groups of people who voted for him, blah, blah, blah. Maybe the bottom line, they didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Whatever we were chatting about over here, they didn't believe it. They weren't convinced. I know it's really easy to think that it was just a whole bunch of bad racist people, but I mean,
no.
Guys,
the data's not there.
No.
The numbers are not there.
No, we need to just start to honestly really think about the fact that like people do not agree. They do not believe what we're saying. Either they are not convinced enough that Trump is actually as bad as we say he is, or they are not convinced enough that we are a serious alternative capable of achieving what we say we do, or it's both.
Because his approval ratings are always low.
Yeah.
But they're willing to hold their nose and vote for him over who we're choosing. That should tell us something. It's happened 2 out of 3 elections. The other thing that I would say that I feel like people don't really want to sit with this because it feels like you're sort of conforming, or at least it's framed this way. What you're saying about like, we've got to start convincing people in order for both, all the way from corporate Democrats to moderate Democrats to leftists to progressives across the whole left aisle. Our survival is literally contingent and dependent on if we're willing to convince more people. Because right now, bro, our pathway to not just a presidency, but just to getting 50 seats is starting to look slimmer and slimmer over the last few years. I think a lot of people felt that the way Obama dominated was the trajectory of where the country is going. But since he's left, it's not ever been like that since.
Yeah.
He won places like Ohio. That's gone now, bro. He won Florida twice. That's gone. I even think he won North Carolina the first time, if I'm not mistaken. There's other people like Sherrod Brown in Ohio, the senator, lost his seat. The senator in Pennsylvania lost his seat. John Tester in Montana lost his seat. Those places have moved so far to the red where Republicans have a better chance of getting 55 seats in the Senate versus let alone just getting 50. We're nowhere near that. And the idea of trying to get places like Texas or Florida, bro, those are pipe dreams now. If we continue in this direction, I'll add. And so I'm saying this as like, either we're going to make the intentional decision to really try to coalition build here. And I'm sort of speaking very strategically to the leftists here because there's a resistance to want to collaborate with other people on the left. And I feel like that is not only a detriment to them, it's a detriment to you. Like, you also won't survive if the Democratic Party becomes a little bit more obsolete, at least in the way that things are functioning. I don't see it. We're too tangled up. There's way too many progressives and way too many left-leaning people that are agreeing with things that are happening on both sides of the aisle, where if one were to go, it would literally hurt both of you. I'm not feeling the sense of urgency from either side of like, we might be on the verge of like political extinction.
Well, I don't think people believe that persuasion is possible anymore. I think people believe that we're in this era now where it is impossible to change someone's mind because it feels that way on the internet. But it is not true.
Yeah.
It is not true. It is possible. There are people in places that are doing it. in small scale ways in their local environments and in their local communities. Like, it can be done and it can be achieved. But I think the other problem that a lot of leftists have, and this is something that guy said in that book I was reading, Political Hobbyism, a lot of people on the left believe that our ideas are self-evident and don't need to be proven. And so we don't even like to engage in the debate of our ideas because we just believe that they're right.
It's like a common sense thing.
Yeah, a common sense thing and like a moral thing.
Yeah.
Which I understand because, you know, we believe ourselves to be the group of people that is more politically aligned with anti-racism and with gender equality and with LGBTQ rights and human rights and all of those things. And so it does feel like it feels like a very simple black and white issue of morality, but like that's not how other people look at it.
Yeah.
A lot of other people are not thinking like, I am not going to align myself with anti-racist ideas. People aren't thinking that. They just don't see these ideas the way that we are seeing them. They're not seeing them in the same shade and color as we're seeing them. And their interpretation of the morals of the entire conversation is different. It's not that they're immoral. They're defining the political conversation differently than we are. We have to engage with that seriously. Our ideas are not self-evident. I'm sorry. We have to be willing to genuinely debate them.
And I also think sometimes we also would need to think about who are the people that will need to do the persuading. Because I can understand a trans person saying, like, I don't feel safe having to do that in certain spaces. If a black woman's like, I don't feel comfortable or safe doing that in certain spaces, I wouldn't hold that against them.
Is what I'll say. I don't think anyone gets a complete opt-out personally. I don't think that you need to put yourself in unsafe spaces, but I think that part of the problem that we have is that when people do decide to take on this task, people on the left disparage them for doing it. Because they think that, why are you engaging with this? Why are you giving these people a platform? If you don't feel personally comfortable engaging in that work, fine. I think the least that you can do, though, then is not discourage other people from doing it, number one. But two, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to mean that you're putting yourself out there in danger spaces. This is something that can be done, I think, in like a much more interpersonal way and a much more natural way. And I also think like just carry the mindset. I don't know. I at least think we need like some sort of mindset shift where we are at least open to the conversations when the opportunities present themselves to us. And I think that we need to believe that the people who vote in opposition to us are just as worthy of the things that we are fighting for as we are. Part of the reason why you are fighting for them should be so that they gain access to them too.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you think about it that way and you have a much more human perspective on the people who currently disagree with you politically, that you are much more able to engage in this type of work of persuasion because you genuinely believe that what you are fighting for is good for them and you want good for them. That to me is the mindset shift. Right now, there is so much gotcha energy. I love the Leopard song, okay? I watch it every time.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of gotcha energy in that, and I don't always know if that's helpful. I think, like, there has to be also this other mindset of, like, they did something really, really harmful, and it's going to have horrible consequences for me, and it's going to have horrible consequences for them, too, and that is bad.
Yeah.
Like, that is a sad thing that they are going to have to endure this too, and that we are all missing out on something that could be good. All of us. Like that to me, that's been my major mindset shift that I've been trying to instill in myself of like, I want good things to happen to the people who politically disagree with me because they're good for all of us. I want the benefits of my policy ideals for everyone. The other thing I really want to talk about quickly, the other thing that I've been trying to just think about being more intentional about is news intake. I've been really thinking about this. I think that algorithms and social media feeds have made people believe that all the information that is important to know will just come to you naturally.
Yeah.
because that's basically how your feed works, right? Like anything that all the people in your like-minded community are talking about just automatically pops up. You don't really have to do any work to go and look for it and search for it. And when you do have to go and do work for it, people get upset. It's like when you see a video pop up on your For You page and it's clearly the middle of some sort of online conversations that's been happening, but nobody in the comments is telling you where it starts, and it's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are all like, we've gotten used to the convenience of it. But the problem is that news is not interest based and current events don't fit into algorithms. And all of our social media websites are owned by people who appear to be in Donald Trump's corner. Based off of what we have seen recently. We just have to be really, really intentional about seeking information, seek it, plan for it, and go to multiple places. And one more push, I don't think you should only be going to very, very left-leaning places to get your news. Sorry.
Well, I would also say, and I had to convince myself out of it, now isn't the time to tap out. And I know that it's hard to say, especially if you're a Black person, where you look at that data and you're like, I did my part and all these other people failed. A lot of these executive orders are very much going to either exclusively hurt us or hurt us the most. And I had to really convince myself, let me not ignore that news article. Let me not ignore that podcast, because in 2 years, we have a chance to slow this down or to put this to a halt in some capacity. We can't tap out. And something that really struck with me this week at work, this gentleman, we were doing this dialogue training, and this gentleman made this really good point where he was like, conservatives don't get that fatigue. They keep going. And so if we really want to be on that wave, we've got to model that pattern also.
Brittany Pagnetti, last thing I'll say, had a really good post this week where she basically said, do the next right thing. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try to do all the things at one time. Tap into what you can do and just do the next correct thing.
So that's our thoughts. We'd love to hear what you all think. How are we processing the election? Let us know in the comment section below. And with that, we will see you all next time. Take care, everyone. Peace.